Quickly, I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone who has liked, commented, subscribed to YouTube so far. I really appreciate all your guys' support. And for that, I would like to give away some of my training gear. All you need to do is like this video and be subscribed to my YouTube channel. So if you've already subscribed, that's okay. You have to subscribe to be able to win. It's full of 2018 training clothes, a hoodie, snapback, bucket hats, and some training shorts. So all you need to do is like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Now today we've come into the city, heading on to the radio to talk all sport on the sports forum with Clint Maynard. I came on here a few months ago actually and dropped a vlog a while ago about it, which is a lot of fun. I love talking about sport, all sports. So today we've come in and we're going to do that. No doubt we'll talk a little bit about the Sharks and what's recently happened. But yeah, it should be a lot of fun, so let's get stuck into it.
We're joined by a special guest, and apt that he's in the studio today because there are plenty of big NRL issues to chat about, but we'll talk about other sport as well. Cronulla Sharks Premiership winning halfback Chad Townsend.
Thanks for having me, guys.
G'day Chad, welcome to Macquarie Sports Radio Weekend Arvos. Bit of fun here. Rugby League, the gift that keeps on giving.
Oh mate, it's supposed to be the off-season, isn't it?
Well, we've had literally in the last 20 minutes, the Brisbane Broncos have confirmed they've terminated Wayne Bennett. This was after Wayne Bennett said on Friday that he was staying with the Broncos in 2019. They've thanked him and they'll swap with Anthony Seibold immediately. Now, as a player, how disruptive could it possibly be to have a coaching change at this stage of the season, in the off-season?
Oh, look, I still think now it's best to get it out of the way now. I think if they went any further and then started playing games throughout the season, that's when the pressure really would have built, and win-losses and media pressure. So I think now it still gives the coaches plenty of time to settle their squads for next year, learn the players, learn the culture of their new club. So I think it was always going to happen, but I think it's best for both clubs and both coaches that it happened now.
It would be difficult because I would expect that a big role of a coach is to plan future recruitment, retention of players, and if you've got different coaches at an opposition club, but then they're probably communicating with players at the other club they're going to, puts everyone in a bit of a compromised position.
Yeah, definitely. That's a difficult one. I think, as a coach, where you're signed somewhere else for next year, your immediate focus should be on your job right now, coaching your players into giving them all your attention, the best season you can possibly have. But when you've got a contract elsewhere for beyond that, that's where conflict of interest, when you're trying to plan and whatnot, recruit players. So like I said, I think it's best for both teams and both coaches that it's all sorted, and finally I think everyone can move on.
How important is it to have a pretty honest conversation with your coach, knowing that you can say what you feel and in turn you're going to get some pretty frank responses back from him? Because it seems like through this is that Wayne Bennett was saying one thing to players and officials privately, and then you would then see him saying the complete opposite on the television.
Yeah, look, I think open, transparency from a coach is really important. I think as a player, you always want to be told the truth at all times, and honesty, and I think that goes, outside of football as well, just to being a genuine person. And if you're having a face-to-face conversation and someone's telling you one thing but they mean another, that's definitely not what I'd like to be, around. Sure. Open and transparent, I think, is definitely, a key factor, especially when being an NRL head coach.
Have you got any mates at the Bunnies or the Broncos? Have you been texting with them saying, geez, what's going on, boys?
I've got a good mate at the Broncos, Jack Bird, actually, but we speak quite often, but we haven't spoken about this coaching.
And Birdie went to the Broncos saying he wanted to go there because Wayne Bennett.
Yeah, that's correct. He did say that, and he had a pretty disruptive season this year, Birdie. So I have no doubt that he's probably a little bit frustrated. In fact, that I know he went there wanting to play under Wayne. Previously, he was at the Dragons as a young kid when Wayne was at the Dragons coming up, and I think that was one of the main things that lured him to Brisbane. So, it's going to be an interesting one, but I think Seibold's going to have to be the one to get the best out of him next year.
What about Jack Bird, edge back rower, Cronulla Sharks?
I like it.
just looking at the roster.
I like it. I like Birdie anywhere in my 17, to be honest. I'd have him in my team anywhere.
We've got plenty of issues to talk about on the program today. We're actually going to talk beyond rugby league as well. We'll talk about women's cricket. We're going to talk about American sports as well. 13 12 83 is our number. If you have any questions for Chad, jump on the phone. If you've got rugby league questions or any sport, happy to join in the debate. 13 12 83. Emails via the website sportsradio.com.au. But the big issue that would have been concerning you in the last couple of days, we've got to address it, is the fact that one of your mates, Valentine Holmes, suddenly announced that he was leaving for the NFL, and then the Sharks recruit a replacement, another player that you played with, Shaun Johnson. Firstly, on the Valentine Holmes issue, it stunned most people in rugby league. Did it shock you?
Yeah, it did. To be honest, firstly, when it came out, I actually didn't believe it when it first was reported in the papers, and I obviously know that Val's was off contract after the end of next season, and then when it actually came, and I'd spoken to Val, and he confirmed the whole thing, it was a little bit. I was shocked, definitely. I didn't expect, obviously all the talk was about him going back to the Cowboys, but for him to take up, an offer in the NFL is super exciting for him. Me, as a teammate and as a mate outside of rugby league, I'm really happy for him. I'm happy that he's taken this chance of 1 in 6 spots internationally to go and give it a go, and I know how much he loves his NFL. We actually got a fantasy together at the Sharks and a few of the old Sharks players, and we're both in it. We play against each other in the fantasy. So, but yeah, I think the timing was probably the most difficult thing as a player and as a club. When you want your roster so settled, leading into pre-season and into the new season, and to lose, I think, a player of his quality so close to, I guess, the start of next season was probably like, oh, yeah, damn, what are we going to do? We've just lost our best player, but lucky enough, as you mentioned, things have worked out, and we've been able to get someone who, who's pretty not bad himself.
Which I think goes to explain why Paul Gallen was so frustrated, and publicly as well, and said some things on social media about the fact that this shouldn't be allowed to happen, that rules need to be brought in to stop this from happening, because as the captain of the club, he must be gutted that he's losing not just one of the best players in the NRL, like generationally, Valentine Holmes is a superstar. So you seem pretty supportive of his decision to try this in the NFL, to pursue his dream. Is that support spread across the playing group, or are there others who take a leaf out of Gal's book and are a bit dirty that he's left?
Yeah, look, I haven't spoken to the whole playing group about Val's decision, but I've spoken to a few of the boys, and a lot of us, we're supporting Val as mates and as teammates. We want only the best for him, and with whatever decision he makes, I know personally he's got my full support, and I look forward to hopefully watching him play live one day in the NFL. It'd be unreal, but we'll see what happens. It is, as you mentioned, the timing was probably the most difficult thing from a club point of view, and Gow was obviously very, very honest about how he felt, and Gow's always going to be like that. He's,
a senior citizen.
Yes, he's got a very strong opinion, and that's okay. We encourage that at the Sharks, and we'll move on.
From the athletic point of view, having played with Val now for years and seeing him come up from being a teenager with the Sharks, do you reckon he has the attributes that he can make it in America?
Yeah, definitely. Yep. Physically, he's a phenomenon. His speed, his squat. He's probably one of the heaviest squatters in the club. His deadlift, probably one of the strongest. Leanest. His body fat is around 8-9%,
wow,
which is just unheard of.
Because a lot of the people who don't understand NFL, look, I'm one of them. I try to watch NFL, and I find it a bit frustrating at times.
Yeah, I'm not a student of the game either.
But a lot of people that you read maybe on the fringes say, "Oh, look, he doesn't have the size." Is that a worry for him?
Yeah, look, I actually caught up with Val for coffee a few weeks ago after the news came out, and he said he'd been looking at a few other comparables, wide receivers, and they're all pretty much around his height, weight. Very similar, around the sort of 90 odd kilos, and I think the biggest difference will be that the explosiveness in the NFL. Obviously, in the NRL, it's 80 minutes non-stop, aerobic, physical game. Where NFL, you have one play, it's a burst of power and speed, and then you come back and then you go again. You might sit on the sideline for a bit, and that's where I think the main differences are.
wearing the pads, I know this is again amateur observation, but Val is so elusive. He's got a great step. He's great off the mark. Is it a chance all that padding literally would keep him back a little bit from that style?
I think definitely. I think it'll be a huge adjustment. I know that Jared Hayne originally, when he went over, he said the biggest adjustment was pads, and then the helmet. The vision really does block. It gets blocked out into sort of a narrow vision with the helmet on. So I've got no doubt he'll have to make a few adjustments, and then I know that whatever position, whether it be running back, kick returner, or wide receiver that Val chooses, they're very big on lowering the body into contact and protecting the ball, and that's the biggest focus for his position, is just catching the ball every time and protecting the ball and not dropping it.
I asked this question to your coach, Shane Flanagan, last week when he joined us on the program, who understood Valentine's decision to head over to America to chase his dream in the NFL. If his dream was actually to play rugby union instead, and then he wanted to split and go and sign up with the Waratahs because he wanted to play the Wallabies, wanted to play Rugby World Cup or whatever, if we just moved the sport across, would there have been the support from the team for him to do that? Or is there something about how hard it is to venture across the Pacific and make it in the NFL? I mean, it's massive if he manages to achieve it. Is there something special about that goal, that dream, rather than just jumping codes domestically?
Yeah, look, I think it's a good question. I think I've known Val for quite a while, and I class him as a good mate of mine outside of rugby league too. So I would say I would support him. As even though he's going to a code that is direct rival of rugby league in Australia, if he wanted to play for the Wallabies and he was open and honest and said that's where he wanted to play, that's where he wanted to test himself, I'd support him. I'm not going to be salty and say stay with us and try and be selfish because I want you to stay. But it's not up to me to make the decision. It's your decision. It's your career. Players these days have a very limited time in the game where they need to maximise their earning potential. And if that was the best move for him, either financially or he had a dream or a goal to play and test himself. I mean, the kid's 23. He's done everything in the NRL. He's won premierships. He's won state of origins.
It's an important reminder at times that he's only 23.
And that's why I think it's like, well, you've done everything. You've scored 6 tries in a test match. You've scored the most tries in a season for the Cronulla Sharks. The list goes on with him, and as you mentioned, he's 23. This is the time for him to go out and give something a go. And whether it be NFL or rugby union, as you mentioned, it doesn't change. If it doesn't work, I've got no doubt we'd see Valentine Holmes back in the rugby league, back in the NRL.
He'll walk into any NRL side if he wants to.
100%. He'll walk, but this is the time to do it. I think now he's done everything. He's ready to go.
He's a bit younger than Hayne was as well.
Yep.
Probably about 4 years younger than when Jared Hayne. And let's remember, and I know Hayne's a controversial figure as well. Let's remember he played about 6 or 7 games in the NFL for the 49ers.
I actually watched him live. I actually went
Where'd you go?
Did you travel over to?
Yeah,
right. Jeez, that would have been a good trip.
Yeah, I was in the States in 2015. I actually had a Bucks party in Vegas for a good mate of mine.
Oh, hello.
And we came back. We went to Vegas, came back to LA, and then we drove up to San Francisco. And the 49ers were playing the Packers on that weekend. So I was like, Jared Hayne's playing, we have to go. So about 6 of my mates and myself, we went and we got Hayne jerseys and went and watched, and it was cool. It was really cool. They punted. He was playing punt returner that game, and the Green Bay punter didn't give him too many opportunities. Would try and kick it away from him and kick it out, but it was an unreal experience.
It was a remarkable achievement for him. At the top of his career, turned down what could have been a $10 million grandfather contract, to play somewhere for the rest of his career on a lot of money. To travel over there and try and make it, and not as a punter as well, because that path has been worn by a few Australians.
Well, plenty of AFL players have gone there and punted.
Go over at the end of their careers and go over and punt. But to actually be somebody that carries the ball in an NFL team, I mean, that was a remarkable thing that he achieved.
I think it's a huge feat, especially learning the playbook. I think that's going to be Val's biggest challenge, to learn the playbook, to learn a whole new other game. And Jared Hayne, can say he did it, and he done it, He achieved it. So, I think, we just need to support Val, and as Australians, we talk about Australians playing other sports around the globe. We support them, so,
For the most part, it seems like his teammates, in yourself and others, are pretty supportive of the move Flano was disappointed but has moved on. You've now got a test halfback in Shaun Johnson that's come in as a replacement. I think it's a pretty mature thing to say. As Australians, we should support this pretty talented athlete who's trying to have a crack at a sport that he's probably not going to be successful at, but don't knock a 23-year-old bloke.
He's only 23.
Well, true. But it's really interesting to hear the impact that he's had. He's clearly well respected within the club, and credit to you guys.
On the flip side was what the Sharks announced yesterday formally, that Shaun Johnson has signed a 3-year deal with the Sharkies. Now
Clinton couldn't contain himself.
I was
the
happy.
news came through right as the show was about to start. So we had to sit here for 6 hours. He wasn't able to go and look up pictures of Shaun Johnson on the work computer. He was beaming, grinning from lobe to lobe. He could not contain himself.
And I'll tell you why, because when you're so closely involved with being a fan, you've got a lot of fans chat at the club. You know that it can be one player coming or going that can make the difference, because the NRL competition is so tight.
Definitely.
There's not much. Like 4 teams finished on top of the table basically last year. There's not much between the top teams and the bottom teams. The Sharks could have easily been minor premiers last year based on for and against.
Yep.
So one player can make a dramatic difference. And when Valentine Holmes left, I was upset simply from the fact that, firstly, I love to watch him play. He's one of the most exciting Sharks players the club's had for years to watch. Secondly, he scored a damn lot of tries last year, and you think, okay, where are all those tries going to come from?
Yep,
okay,
correct.
Chad might score 15 himself, maybe not, who knows? But you worry about that sort of
Definitely.
thing. Man, suddenly you somehow pull a rabbit out of the hat and sign one of the best halves in the game, who, to my way of thinking, looks like he complements your team really well.
Yep.
And in saying that, because he's a different style of player to you, so that you both play in the halves,
Definitely.
but you're very different.
Yep.
And to me, that goes, well, hang on, this is almost perfect. What was your view when you heard that Shaun Johnson was coming?
Yeah, look, I first heard of it maybe a few weeks ago, and I'd sent him a little cheeky text message and said, mate, we'd love to have you over here, and he said it's all happening now. He'd keep me sort of in the loop and would give me a call soon. And look, when I heard the news that officially he'd signed, it was yesterday actually. We went down to Cronulla, and some of the boys went for coffee with him yesterday morning, and he was been around Cronulla just having a look, and I knew they still had a few minor things to nut out in terms of the negotiation and stuff with the club. And then at lunchtime, that had all been sorted, and we went down and had a bit of a meal together, and it was just really good to catch up with him and see the smile on his face that it's all sorted. And for us as a club, it's a huge signing, as you mentioned, to get a current New Zealand half, as a 28-year-old in the prime of his game, to join us at this time of the year. It's a huge boost for us. And as you mentioned before, we lost Val, and everyone will always say that there's no one player that's bigger than the club. The club will always move forward from whatever happens, but the competition is really tight. And when we did lose Val, we were obviously disappointed. But then to fill it with Shaun Johnson, it's like, damn, we're back on now. Let's go.
Yeah.
So
you played 2 seasons with him at the Warriors.
Yep.
How'd you find playing with him? Did you complement each other's game?
Yeah. Look, our styles differ very much, and I think I look into the top 4 teams now, and I look at a team like the current premiers in the Sydney Roosters, who have Cooper Cronk and Luke Keary. Their styles of football. Cooper Cronk, very structured, a very good kicking game, very good organisational, and then Luke Keary, great runner of the ball, X factor, very cheeky, has great show and go and a running game. And for me, my game is similar to that of Cronk, where I'm a lot structured, a very loud voice, do a lot of kicking, and Shaun to come in and have that X factor, running game, step, show and go. That's what I think complements each other, our games. And I think when we played together in 14 and 15, that's why when we played our best, those were the best attributes that came out, and that's what Matty Moylan and myself did throughout this year, and that's what I think we need to do moving forward as a combination to play together.
There it is, guys, all done. Really enjoyed that, talking sport and going on the radio. Something I really enjoy doing, so time to kick back and head home now. Training tomorrow.